So, welcome to PNR204 Pediatric Nursing. My name is Professor Bogart, and I've been with Fortis since 2017. I used to teach on ground at Cutler Bay in South Florida, and I currently live in Homestead, Florida, which is about 30 minutes from the Florida Keys. And yeah, it's beautiful weather here, a little bit rainy and overcast today, but that is a normal July, believe it or not, in Florida, rainy off and on. I used to teach pharmacology and I've done a little bit of community and helped always with med surge, helping students understand it. And I'm actually very strong at dosage calculations. I do not teach ratio proportion. But what I teach you is an understandable. And even if you do only know ratio proportions, the way I teach it, you'll know what numbers to pick out of a problem to use. So either way, it's a win-win. I will be sending you a recording and some worksheets to start with. Any of you need extra help, first of all, look at the recording, look at the worksheet, see if you can do it. Then come to me, and then I'll make it even more simple. I've had students that get all math wrong on the first exam, and by exam 3, they're getting them all right. Just give me a little bit of your time, and I can make it understandable. I don't know, I'm a math nerd, I guess. It just makes sense to me, and I will make it make sense to you. Even you like, oh, I can't do math, never been good at it. I can make it fun. So that is my goal if you need help with dosage calc. And that's any of your classmates also. I always offer all my dosage calc to everybody. One of the things that you can do to follow me is I do have a YouTube channel, Professor Bogart, Pediatric Nursing. It has listed all the lectures from the last couple of quarters. It also has a lot of dosage calc videos. If you want to go back and look at it. And it's always open, it's public. In fact, I just found out my grandson, who's 7, decided to post some shorts where he's singing and doing his little boogie dance with a song with a little Cuban hat on. And I just found that out. So if you see this little kid on my channel, it's my grandson, and just just have a chuckle, a minute of a chuckle. Sometimes you need something like that. He is actually quite a trip. So pediatric nursing, I love pediatric nursing, and I love children. I went to work every day and I got to play. And I think that if you do nursing right in the pediatric field, that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to be able to play with those children. And I'm going to teach you how. Because most kids are afraid of nurses because what? The only thing we've done all the way up to some points is giving them shots. And I don't want a shot. No pinche, as a lot of the children here in Miami would say, which means don't pinch me, no shots. So
And sometimes they lie too.
let me get you off. Somebody is on and I can't find them.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just contributing. I say I'm part of the reason is like when the kids are giving shots, the kids will ask, "Does it hurt?" and the adults will say
You
no,
have
and
no,
that
no,
take out
no.
the worst
You
part.
should never, never lie. But I'm
Yeah,
going to show you different ways that you can give shots to children. That's less fear, stress, and pain before, during, and after. And it's actually a program that I developed for the pediatric hospital down here, and it's still going on. And it's called Huggies. But we'll get to that as we go on within this lecture. So I usually will do a PowerPoint, and I don't read a PowerPoint. I try to explain what the information says. And I think explaining it using life stories that I've experienced in my nursing career is going to help you understand. I've actually been in pediatrics since the 80s. I was in adults before there, and I like both really the same, but children will always have that big soft spot in my heart. Cardiac ICU was my strongest suit. I'm at the hospital here. And then the last 10 years was in the emergency room, which I think really prepared me for you, because then I saw all the multiple types of diagnoses. It wasn't just newborn ICU or the cardiac ICU, which is congenital heart defects, which is newborn ICU with a heart problem. So I went and did ER, and it really helped me see a lot of other stuff. And I'm going to share those stories, and you'll be able to understand it. So I'll do that PowerPoint. I'll talk about it. I want you to know that I don't get upset if you need to stop me. You don't understand something, please let me know. I'll never be offended. Okay? Because I'm sure if you have a question, somebody else does too. And you want to come out of this class even today understanding, what the information is all about. When I'm done with the PowerPoint, I do a Kahoots, and this is like an instant test on a lot of stuff for you. So I'll be giving you the Kahoots with the recordings every single week. So when you look at the announcements, this was Welcome PNR 204 Pediatric Nursing. But starting next week, you're going to see week 2 information. That's what you need to do, what's required, and it will have the PowerPoint, and it will have usually there's a worksheet that we hand out, which is going to help you with your quizzes. Now, I just added another one to your announcement, and you're going to see week 1 handout and use the B one. There's a regular one and there's a B because the quizzes were changed a little bit, and the lead professor ended up changing it at the last moment and I didn't see it. So I want you to get all the information you need so it's there for you. So use the B for the week 1, and that will be for your study and for your quiz next week. Quizzes
That
will always,
is that
yes,
like the study guide?
yes, the study guide, yes.
Okay, I'll reprint
You
it.
have the one that said cephalocaudal,
Yes.
dark? That's the one you want.
Oh, it is.
That's
Okay.
the one you want, the
Oh,
B. Yes.
okay.
For the first part that's bolded, cephalocaudal, that's the one that you want to use. So
Perfect. Thank
sorry for
you.
the confusion. You're very welcome. So anybody who needs any extra help, I want you to make sure that you send me a message. I'll work with you. I'll help you. I'll tutor you 1-to-1 or groups of 2 to 3, whatever you need, things that you're not understanding. Was already asked, do I do reviews for exams? Yes, we do. And there's 4 pediatric professors, and all of us is going to do a review, and I will send it to an announcement, and I leave it on one announcement, and I just keep editing and reinserting the new review. It's not going to be 4 different announcements. I think that would drive me nuts because you have at least 3 classes, most of you. So figuring out where the announcement, where the review is, I try to keep you organized in that way. It's one thing I do. I'm pretty organized myself, so I want you, to have the benefit of that. So I know that you've already gone over the orientation PN review with community. If you've done community, you've seen it in maternity. It is basically the same PowerPoint, but I'm going to go over key things about it. All right. So we know online is that, you have to come on a computer. Make sure your computer has plugged in and it's ready to go for class. All right. That's the one thing I do ask. Your phones if we're taking exams, computers if we're taking a class. Now, I usually will go straight through class and let you out early without a break. Is that okay with all of you? Because I don't mind if you need to get up, go to the ladies' room. I don't mind if you need to eat. I mean, it's 6 o'clock at night Eastern. It's dinner time for most people. So, and most of you just coming home from work. I do not mind that going on. Just be, appropriate. All right.
Thank you so much.
No, you're very welcome. I mean, life is still there, and you guys are very busy working, families, life in general, and then school on top of it. So I know you're fitting a lot into a little bit of a space, and I understand it. So if you need anything, you can always contact me. I'm pretty good with answering right away. I mean, pretty quick, less than 24 hours for sure, and sometimes minutes and hours. You'll get an answer. Now, what if you need me quick? Because this is the time where you can do something and you need an answer. Well, I do have a cell phone. It is listed on the modules about Betty Bogart, your professor. but let me give you my cell phone number too. Use this for emergencies or if something you need right away, okay? Because if not, just send me a message in Canvas or an email. I'll get them pretty quick, just to let you know. My cell phone is 305 951 8055. I mean, if you just program that into your phone, if for some reason you can't get to class, you're stuck in traffic like we've seen already, or you had to run to the doctor, had to go to your dog got hit, whatever happens that you're delayed, now you have me in your cell phone, send me a text quick. I'm not making it to class, or I can't make the exam because of this. As long as you
Can you
notify
repeat that number
me
again?
before. Sure, I will. And that phone number is 305 951 8055.
Thank you.
Now, if you can't get a hold of me, there is a lead pediatric professor, and that is Professor Stiles, and she's on the ball, always available. You can always contact her. And then if you can't get a hold of her, you're always welcome to contact Dean Brown. I don't get upset if you contact her. If you need help, I'm not available. Please do your resourcing, your critical thinking, figure out who can help you. And if you need the dean, I'm not going to be yelled at. I'm not going to be, punished, and I'm not going to be mad at you at all. Okay. It's one of the questions and things students feel that if you go to your boss, they're going to be upset. Not at all. Not at all. You need help. I wasn't there. You should need it. Here's Darlene Brown's number so you know where it is and her email if you need to ever get hold of her. So make sure that you either pull up this PowerPoint or you write that number down. She does answer that phone or she gets back pretty quickly if she's on another meeting or whatever's going on. Okay. I don't think the woman sleeps. She's always available. She lives out west and she's up at 4 a.m., which is our 7 o'clock in the morning. So she's always here. And then, of course, I see her at 1 o'clock in the morning. So this woman doesn't sleep and she's always here. And her goal is for students to succeed. Again, always use etiquette in any way that you talk to me or other students. It just makes a better, keeps the whole session with me very, very light. Now, there are discussion questions, project papers. Now, we don't have projects and papers in this. We do have case study, CJ Sims, quizzes, exams, and your discussion questions, of course, and your NCLEX. That's what you do have. Make sure the discussion question that it's in, and all I'll tell you is make sure it's in by Sunday. There are some professors that want you to put the post by Wednesday and then have 2 discussion questions later on by Sunday. Now, I have told my students, I don't care if you do them all at one time, as long as you answer discussion questions, with intent, not just, oh, that was I like what you said. That's not discussing a discussion question, okay? Also, discussion questions, make sure that they are in APA format and that you have references there. That's one of the big things. And I'm going to start helping you figure out how to cite in the body of paragraphs. I do put comments in your discussion questions. So go back and look for that. Even if you get the 20, go back and look. There'll be something there. I write something on everything.
Professor, just 1 minute.
Sure.
I think I'm in the wrong class.
Who are you supposed to be in?
Um,
Same.
Pete,
Luminoso?
Yes.
maybe yes.
Okay,
Yes. Oh
write
my
write
gosh.
this Zoom down. It's okay. Write the Zoom down. It's first week. We understand. It's 544
Five.
330 1724.
Excuse me, I think I'm in the wrong class too, Professor. This is Blue. Can you repeat
Same.
that?
Okay, it is 544 330 1724. And there is no password. Let her know that you were here and I can validate that. Okay.
Okay,
I can
thank you.
always
All right.
send her my attendance that showed that you guys were here. Good luck to you. Okay. But
Thank
remember, I'm always here if you need me.
Okay.
I never turn a student away. So good luck to
Thanks.
you. You're
Thank you.
welcome.
So, Professor, because
Yes.
whoever just spoke, this is my schoolmates, classmates actually. So whatever passcode we have in announcement, that's the right passcode, right?
You're
Just
in the
asking
right
for
place.
myself.
You're in
Okay.
the right place. I
Okay,
know
thank
you
you.
are. Yes, I was
Thank you.
looking at your name. Now, the reason why I didn't look at some names and question it is because week 1, there's late additions. So the names until next week can be all mixed up and mumble jumbled. So that's why I didn't go and question, like, oh, I don't have that name or that name, okay? But from now on, this is the only Zoom I use. I use this for tutoring. I use this for all of your exam reviews. One number. I don't use multiple ones. It just causes confusion. Make sure that when you're taking quizzes, you're taking exams, you're doing your work, remember about, copying and plagiarism. These are things that we do look at. Another thing is, as a nurse, we are professionals. Our profession is we're professionals, and we do go through a lot of training to get to where we are, and just to make sure that we do uphold an ethical standard, that we do try to do no harm, and we try to do the best we can. A does not equal be a nurse. It doesn't. Remember, C can equal a nurse too. And I had many, many young nurses teach me that were going back to school as I was in the emergency room. I was going to the upper level in college, and they were doing their LPNs and doing their RNs, and they go, oh, C equals nurse. It's okay, we'll get through this. So, and I am actually, I will tell you the honest truth, as a graduate from my RN program, I was C equals RN. Okay. Now, my upper level degrees, I'm a 4.0 GPA nerd, but I graduated nursing school at age 20. So I've been a nurse a really long time. Um, and when I was young, I just didn't understand as much. I find that this program, most of you have a little bit more age on you, which is more knowledge. And actually, you understand things a lot better, believe it or not, more life experiences. Now, there are some websites that Fortis looks at. So be careful if you want to go on any of these websites, copy stuff. A lot of our stuff goes through plagiar checkers. We look for these things. So don't do it. It's not worth it. Furthermore, we don't know if the information on these websites are accurate. We've actually found stuff that is completely wrong information. So don't do it, because they will see you and they could suspend you, or, tell you to zero on these courses, come back next quarter and do them again. And nobody wants that. And I don't want to have to say, I've seen only see plagiarism here, okay? So be careful, be very careful. So late work policy. Anytime you're going to be late, that's why you have my phone number now. And everybody carries a cell phone wherever they are. You can always text me, listen, I'm not going to make it, or I'm sick, or I'm in the hospital, or I'm with my mother, I'm with whatever. I can't get this work in. So as long as you tell me what's going on, and it's not every assignment, I can let you go one more week to get that assignment in without a 10% deduction if you notify me before it's due. So if it's Monday morning and you're telling me, sorry, I couldn't get NCLEX question, I was here there, well, it's going to be minus 10%. But if you tell me Sunday night before 11:59 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to tell you that it's okay. Turn it in by next Sunday. Okay, I will work with you, but it's key. Communication with me. I will work with you. I understand life. I understand it shows up. I really do. Now, after those 2 weeks, it was due on Sunday. You have one more week. After that, unless there's some extreme circumstances, I cannot take any other homework. You will get a 0. So be careful. Your homework is 20%. Be careful. So as we already found out earlier, If you're here, you can't be in a car, you can't be driving, a passenger, or even in the back seat because that could distract a driver. So I will remove you from the class or tell you to come back, which is, I mean, I understand it's first class, so now we know. And I understand why those things happen. If it happens again, text me. I'm stuck in traffic again. I'll be there soon. As long as I know what's going on. Make sure that you're on camera at all times. I don't want to look at ceiling fans or ceilings and stuff like that. Remember, attendance 1 minute late is 15 minutes late. So if you're 16 minutes late, it's 30 minutes late, just to let you know. And you know that they will be giving you all of these 5, 10, 15, 20% missing attendance type of emails. Now, if you have been missed a class because of a circumstance, you're in the ER, your child's in the ER, your mother's in the ER, send me documentation as soon as possible. And what that does, it will stop that time from being count against you so you won't get 20%, okay? Especially if it, a lot of stuff's happening up in your life. So anytime you are late, that, significant amount of time, or the whole class, and you have documentation, let me know. So how do we be successful? Well, I give you all the tools you need. You've got PowerPoints, you've got Kahoots, you're going to get study guides. I'm going to tell you every week what you have due, what to get in. I'll send you little messages reminding you. CJ Sims are huge in the amount of percentage. Each one is 5%. Do not miss one because that is a lot out of your grade. Also, when we get into the HESI case studies, assignment and practice exams, they're 2 and 3%. So they add up to be a lot. And I will make sure I send you messages if they're not in, because if you're at that borderline, it can fail your homework grades. We don't want that. Again, always let me know what's going on. Always check your Canvas of any information I'm sending you. Again, your syllabus is your Bible. Whatever's on the syllabus is the way things are due. You're going to see that I have NCLEX questions open that you can put them in whenever. Just be careful. You need 2 points of contact or putting something in Canvas every week. That's the other part of your attendance, okay? You see. I don't do quote weekly reviews, but what I do is this. Anybody who doesn't understand anything, send me a message and I will meet you when you can, whether it's in the evening, in the morning, the afternoon. I'll work with you to try to have you understand it. And the review session every week before every exam, yes, I'm going to do a review. And again, you're going to get all the recordings and you can find them on my YouTube channel, right? And you will get it posted. For instance, this week, it'll say week 1 recording. It's going to have my YouTube recording. It's going to have the Kahoots. It's going to have the PowerPoint. And I'm going to re-put up, the study guide also for you again. So again, trying to keep everything in one place. Anybody who is a re-entry, I have to meet weekly. So if you're re-entry, send me a message. We got to figure out a time and a day that works for you, okay? Anyone who has accommodations, I need to know as soon as possible, because next Friday you're having your first quiz. And I have to make sure that you have that extra time for those accommodations, okay? This is what and how things are weighed in here. What is it worth? We know you have 3 exams, 5 quizzes, 1 HESI. We do have a HESI workshop that we do. The lead professor does one every week. I'll be sending you, that link if you want to meet. She goes all different topics every single week, which can help you understand pediatrics more, especially those who want to work pediatrics. It will really sink it in. and you can ask questions with her too. Now, the HESI practice and assignment exams, they're in Canvas through the modules, and it should go over into your grade book. So when you're done with it, the score should go in your grade book. If it does not go over, let me know. I still can look it up, all right? The homework grades are off. I'll turn them on week 6, and that's going to show you if you didn't do your NCLEX questions and you could have 50 questions and you only did 30. That's like getting a 60. How is that going to affect your grade? And you're going to see it really does affect your grade. So when you're doing those quote homework grades, try to get a minimum, bare minimum of 78, so it will not fail you, okay? We know after your quizzes, exams, and HESI meet 78, we add on the homework, and then it still has to be 78 for you to pass the course. When you come into exams, again, make sure things are charged. That's the biggest thing. Come in on your phones. I'm going to do the review and all those things. Make sure you have your ID that we can put it on there. We need that for that. And then we'll do the exams through Zoom, through your phones, and then you'll have your exams on your computers. And when the exam's over, you'll come back through Zoom through your computers. Quizzes are at the beginning of every class, and it's on last week's information. So next week, week 2, is your first quiz. It is on this week's work, and you do have the study guide. You already have it. Remember, it's the one labeled B, okay? Quizzes are 15 minutes long unless you have accommodation. It's 10 questions, and you can only go forward. You can't go back and change. So once you've entered, that's it, the next one. Make sure that you are always on camera. If, for instance, the phone is ringing and you go off and it's a black screen and it stays there for a while, I will send you a chat message stating you're off camera. If you don't come right, quickly, I will announce over at everybody to say, such and such, could you turn on your camera, please? Because if it's not proctored, you're not on camera, you will get a 0. I will make every attempt so that you don't. Again, ExamSoft. Exams are not ready till 1 hour before the exam. They're not open like from Sunday on. So 1 hour before. So your class is at 6 p.m. Eastern, at 5 p.m. Eastern. Those exams will be ready for your download. Okay? So don't be worried, oh, I can't find the exam. 1 hour before. And the announcement will say 1 hour before. Now, what if you're taking your exam and the power goes off, your internet dies, you forgot the power cord and you don't have a charge, or there's a lightning storm, whatever. Whether a quiz, whether an exam, you're going to message me immediately. If you message me immediately, we'll be able to restart that quiz or restart that exam for you. I can actually see every touch that you do on the quizzes and on the exams. So I can say, all right, I know that this is when it stopped. We can call ExamSoft and get an access code and get you restarted, at another time. And so you're not going to get minus 10 questions if that's where you were for your test score. You will get the rest of the questions. The key is notify me right away. I'm having technical problems. Anybody who wants to take an exam on campus, I need to know, you need to tell me, and I need to know 3 days before minimum, the proctor who on campus will be proctoring for you. She needs or he needs to send me a message, okay? And then I will send that person the access code. They should be close to class time as possible. If you can't take an exam for whatever reason, and you notified me before time, you will not get a 10% deduction, and you will have up to 1 week before the next class to get that exam finished. If the exam went, you didn't notify me, you're going to be minus 10% deduction, and you still have up till the next class in order to do that exam. And we'll work together on when that will be done. Again, always before, let me know. Quizzes are right in your Canvas shell. Very easy to get there. Again, technical problems, let me know. HESI is one time. You don't get 2 chances on it, and it is 20% of your grade. We do have many different sort of HESI things. We have the one that's all semester long. I have a couple Kahoots that I have out there, and I also do what I call a Q&A, which talks about concepts in pediatric nursing. And I do it for RN and PN because you both study the same thing. So putting those concepts out there will help you think, and it has helped. Remediation, we know, needs to be done. We know for exams, you need your ID, and we'll do a check. And again, any problems, let me know. You'll always get, the warnings of when things are due, from your Canvas shell. But again, remember, it all goes back to that syllabus, and I send it out all the time. We've already gone over when things are due. NCLEX questions. Now, the first set of NCLEX question is growth and development. It's not under pediatrics. So you're going to tell me there's only 16 questions. And I'm going to tell you, you're in pediatrics. Go to growth and development. And you click all of them: infant, toddler, preschool, school age, adolescent, and it will come up with all the questions for it. If you get a 0 on your first set of NCLEX questions, go in and find out the comments why. Was it you did the wrong NCLEX questions, you didn't do growth and development, or did you not turn them in properly? If you didn't turn them in properly, again, you'll see that 0, but in the comments, I will put an instruction for you so that you know, oh, here's the instructions. Or we meet on Zoom and I show you how to do it. It's actually easy. And it's a multiple, bunches of pages. And that's what I want to see. Make sure you do the best on the NCLEX questions as you can. They're all together worth 5%. So don't think that every single one, 1.25% can make a big difference in your grade. As I said, this has the practice. They're in the modules. You can't just go to Evolve. And if you get a 0, let me know. Now, CJ Sims. Now, this is your case studies. This shows you evolving situations going on. You can't do them until the week that they're due. This is one thing I cannot open early, okay? As you're doing them, look up any word you don't know, what medicine you don't know, what word you don't know. And as you do that, you're thinking now and you're putting pieces of the puzzle together. I have been told that these really help as they're going through them to understand more, because I can teach you information, but now how do you apply it to a child, to a client, right? Very important. So take your time with CJ Sims. Don't just put answers down. It does not benefit you to do it. All right, we don't have one of those. So basically, all of this is telling you, communicate with me, talk to me before things happen, not after things happen. I will work with you. I'm not here to try to give you all 0s or take points off. In fact, I'm going to try everything for you not to get 0s and for points taken off. You just respond, communicate with me, and everything will be all right. All right? Any questions? All right, let's go ahead and do our PowerPoint. Was you able to look at your PowerPoint at all? Usually the first week, students are like, no, I didn't do it yet. So
I did, but I printed out the wrong, I did the 3, like the chapters. because I didn't see this one or I would have printed it. So I printed the chapter 15, 16, and 17 information ones.
All right. Well, these are ones that have been redone and made pretty and pictures put in, and key vital information is there a little bit simpler. They will be posted every week. They usually come out on Sunday at 12 midnight. So by Sunday, you'll have it all. That means all week long, if you're at campus and you need to print, you can print them there. Or if you're lucky enough to have your printer at home, I mean, that makes it easier. But let's go ahead and start. Week 1, growth and development and nutrition. Well, children are quite amazing how they grow. Let me just start out with an infant. They're born, let's say 7 pounds. They can't lift their head up. By the time they become 1 year old, they've tripled their birth weight and they're walking or almost attempting to walk. It's quite amazing. They triple their birth weight by then, double it by 6 months. It is a continuous, simultaneous growth of a child. We know the first 6 months, every month they gain 1 inch. That's a lot. So you can imagine how much nutrition is needed, right? They're growing that quick. They need food because they need that for cognitive development and for that growth and development. And remember, all of the parts of the body don't all mature at the same time. Okay. We know sometimes it's the reflexes are there, their muscles are there. It's all going to take time and it all falls into place. We know that all children are different. As long as they are going forward in the progress of growth and development, we're actually okay with that. Now, remember that children that are sick tend to act differently than children who are well. What happens to a child who's sick? They sit in a corner, they're quiet, they fall asleep, they don't want to eat, they don't want to drink, and they're taking naps when they never do, right? That's their response. That's when you know a child's sick. Adults do not do that. Adults keep eating, drinking, keeps going because they have to for whatever reason, right? We all have pushed ourselves because of it. So children act differently than adults, okay? They need a little bit more of an explanation than do adults. We know height and weight every single visit. We do this in pediatrics. We don't in the adult world. They'll say, so how much do you weigh? And I'm like, I weigh, right? I'm not going to tell them how much I weigh. No, I'm a big girl. It's all right. But in children, it's height and weight. And why are we looking at that? Well, if they're not at a proper height and weight, they're not double their birth weight by 6 months, and it's less than, we need to do something to catch them up with nutrition, whether it's increasing the calories in the formula or putting breast fortifiers, which increases calories in breast milk, whatever, or feeding more frequently, whatever has to be done. They're growing so quick, they need the fuel. They need as much as possible. As we are looking at children, taking vital signs, giving them immunizations if we're in a doctor's office, we're just going to look at the child and how they're acting. You could tell, like, as I said, a sick child from a well child. Now, as we go forward and we're looking at kids and they're giving us symptoms of something, we're going to have to figure out what a nursing diagnosis is. Is it, difficulty in breathing as evidenced by elevated respiratory rate, elevated, related to the pneumonia, right? It could be all these things. Again, doing the nursing diagnosis every time you think about it. Remember when you have a child who's sick, what are you going to do? You're planning, this is your ADPI we're talking about right now. So you analyze and you get a diagnosis, and now you're going to plan, what do you need to do? My child has a fever, sitting in the corner, doesn't feel well. My plan, I'm going to get them some antipyretic, and as soon as their fever comes down, I'm going to give them fluid, which is what they need with a fever because they're losing fluid. That's my plan. And that's now my implementation. And then when we look at it even further, the E, we're going to evaluate. Did it work? Well, their fever now is down. Now they're running around and now they're drinking. I evaluated. That's how as simple ADPI can be. So children starts with movement in the head. Cephalic, we've heard that word, means a head. So cephalocaudal, caudal means lower, your feet. So it starts with the development, gross motor, lifting the head, then turning from the abdomen to the belly, to abdomen to the back at 5 months, back to the abdomen at 6 months, then up on the knees and crawling. Then by 8 months, sitting unsupported. 9 months, sort of climbing up and crawling, creeping on the side of a couch, right? They're standing up but not walking. And then they get to the point where by 12 months, they're attempting or they're already walking. Remember, some kids walk at 9 months, some kids walk at 15 months, and they're both normal as long as they're moving forward in all the developmental steps. And that's why it's called cephalocaudal. It starts the movement of the head and then it goes to the walking on the feet. Proximal distal, it starts with everything is here. I see everything here, I can work with it. And then they start realizing there's stuff around them. So proximal to distal around. So that's what that is. So they'll take rattles here first, then they'll reach for them later. Now there are a lot of different things with children and adults. Now I sent you all a vital sign sheet. Did you see the vital sign sheet? Or I'm going to send it with today's recording. Children who are born have a heart rate of 140 to 160. What is an adult's normal? 60 to 100, right? So can you see the difference here? Like, why do I need to know this? Well, respiratory rate is 40 to 60. As we get older, those numbers start coming down to the adult age. Now, blood pressure, the normal, like a 120 over 80 for adults, of a newborn infant is 60 over 40. That's a normal blood pressure. As they get to be 1 year old, it might be 80 over 60. Okay, so that one goes up. Now, why do I mention these things? Well, if you're evaluating a child for a fever, for pain, for dehydration, you want to know what a normal heart rate is. You count that infant's heart rate and it's 160, and you go, oh, must have a fever. Oh, must be in pain, must be dehydrated. It's normal, right? So this is why you need to know that there are differences in children versus adult. You don't give 1 Tylenol, 2 Tylenol to the child for fever. There's specific doses, right? And that's also part of it. We know that their body proportions are different, their fat and their adipose tissue. We know that their immunity, they're born with just mom, what they gave her, right? All the antigens and immunoglobulins mom's given them. And then we start giving a lot of immunizations to get their immunity up. But we know their immunity gets better with age and as they get some of these viruses, et cetera, et cetera. Kidneys start, they're not as mature, nervous system, all those things are maturing, and they're maturing because nutrition is proper. That proper nutrition, it's feeding the brain, it's feeding the body. We know they sleep a lot at first, and then they get more where they're just taking little naps there. And we know they're growing. As I said, 1 inch per month for 6 months. So one of the things about children is we do have these growth charts things, and it's like what the normal growth is, and it's usually on the smaller side. So when even we look at like acetaminophen and ibuprofen in the packages, you're going to see the doses are lower. It's rather to give a lower dose than a bigger dose. So they always look at smaller sizes. And you have some kids that are huge. I mean, my firstborn son, this kid was a monster by the age he was 1 year old. He was, quite pudgy. and grew very quick. So he ended up to be 6'4", so I wonder why in the end, right? But we know that we have to look at all of this growth and we need to plot it. As I said, children who are fed good nutrition are going to grow well. They're going to be cognitively alert because we're putting gas in the gas tank, feeding the fuel of the brain, okay? As what I said, there's so many differences. You can't look at a brother and a sister and compare them because they're both different. And boys and girls are on separate charts. And there's the charts and what they look like. And you'll hear, oh, they're in the 20 percentile. They're in the 99 percentile. These are all things that the doctor will tell you. Now, Denver Developmental Screening Test is not an intelligent test. There's multiple questions about this on exams and quizzes to let you know. All it does, it evaluates that there is more testing needed. It looks at personal, social, fine motor, language, and gross motor. And it identifies those who needs more help with it. It's not an intelligent test, all right? It's trying to see where are they with the activity that they should be doing according to other children and to catch them up and give them early intervention if they need it. Things that can influence children. Now, as we get older, school age children, you're going to see there's really short ones, really tall ones, really fat ones, really skin ones. Remember, hereditary and nationality, race, all play a play into this. You have parents that are short and you have parents that are tall. So if you have a kid who's really short and pudgy, and that's what the family looks like, well, that's hereditary, isn't it? And it's something you wouldn't be able to make that kid grow more or something. It's just what's normal. They also say the position in the family, the ordinal position in the family. Are they the second child, third child, first child, last child? It all makes a difference. Also, the gender, males and females. It does make a difference in the development of your child. And of course, are they brought up in a good environment? Is it healthy? Is it happy? Or is it homeless or almost homeless, right? So when you're looking at family, Apgar, you're looking at their ability and how they deal with their children. How do they adapt to being a parent? Working together as a team, the partnership. You see APGAR, right? Are they growing good? A child is growing within the realms that they should be. We know that they're getting nutrition. Also, is that child with that parent? Is there a lot of love? Is there a lot of affection there? And are they understanding of what's going on? This looks at healthy relationships, and it looks at other ones that might need some sort of help. Now, homeless families, I think, are more than ever. I've even in nursing school, teaching, I have found students, that were this close or, just getting, help with another student, homeless. And it is a reality. Many people are one paycheck away from homelessness, and that's just the reality of life. So it does, if you can imagine thinking about a child, if you're homeless, are they eating right? Do they have food to eat? And if they're not feeding the tank of gas, cognitively, they're going to be delayed. And physically, growth development is going to be delayed. So when I see anything like this, I would always get the social worker to come visit the family. Do they have the referrals to get food, to get housing? There are a lot of available resources there. You don't have to know them all, but getting the social worker in or that patient representative in or whoever the name of the person is in your facility can give them that support that they do need and give them that help and that hope. I know that school nurses, this would be big. And look at this, emergency department nurse. I used to see it a lot. They would come in and they'd be hungry and I'd go get them food and get them fed and get social worker in there. It is a reality. It is real. Children all have different personalities. you've got the kid who doesn't want to be held and cries for everything. And then you have the kid who's always smiling and is always, the clown and the entertainer. You'll hear a lot this quarter all about my little grandson. He's now 7, and this is Mr. Personality. We went to Miami Beach and he's in the pool and he swims. I taught him by the age of 2 how to swim because South Florida, kids need to know how to swim and to be safe in the water. And he would go up and he had a snorkel on and a mask. He's 7. And he's going up and down and talking to all of the families and all of the kids, Mr. Personality. And then you have the other kid who wouldn't get out of mom's lap and wouldn't come down to play with him because, again, personalities. Now, one of the hardest part of your first exam is going to be theorists. I'm going to send you a bunch of YouTube recordings on these theorists. The ones that you need to know is Erikson, Freud, Kohlberg, Piaget, and you need to understand what Maslow is. And it's a hierarchy of needs, okay? So I'm going to try to explain them as we go through infants and toddlers and let you understand what they mean, okay? It's going to take repetitive, me going over it for you to understand it. But I'm going to give you those recordings for you. So at birth, remember, baby's inside, nice and warm. And then all of a sudden they come out into this environment. It's cold and people are touching and pinching them everywhere, right? And then they have to like relax and just, envelop the environment that they're in and find out, who these parents are. And we know that parents that are there and are caring and make the needs met, we know that that child is going to be a happier child, okay? That, if this parent is always a bother for this baby to feed it, to change it, that child understands it. And it does go a lot into Erikson's, and we'll go into that more about that. At birth, and especially as nurses, we have children, babies born, that immediately go into a newborn nursery because of illness. They're sick, respiratory, or, other conditions that go on. Remember, these parents should be encouraged to touch them. We encourage even, tummy time, where they get on their into their skin. And these sort of things are what we need to do. Again, parents need to be taught all about things like there is a reflex grasp, where at birth, you put your finger next to the hand, and by a reflex, they'll grab it with the palm, it's called. It's a palmar reflex grasp. And most mothers go, oh, look, my baby just hugged me. And I won't tell them it's a reflex, but it's just an absolute reflex there. And it does help. You have children born in all different conditions. Many of them, the parents still can hold. I can't tell you how many newborn infants that had the ability to be held. And the mother finally gets to the hospital to see their child. I'll pick that child up, wrap them up tightly, and put them in mommy's arms because they need that bonding. And it does help. Number one, helps the mom, right? Because she's all hormonal, a sick baby in hospital. And the baby now knows because they know who mommy is, okay? So it's hard for new parents to understand what a baby needs, right? And it's, there's no real written book on it. I mean, there's many things you can read about, but as nurses, we need to encourage mothers to take care of their children, how to change the diapers, and etc. I mean, having the grandparents do all these things doesn't do that mother and that baby any good. That mother still needs to be very involved with it as much as grandma wants to. I know that my daughter lived with me with the newborn baby initially. And and I'm a pediatric nurse too. I had to step back and let my daughter do what she wanted. And if she asked questions, I would answer them. But I did not take over the care of the child. I let her be a parent. And those two are close. And of course, me and my little grandson were very close to. Now, toddlers. What are toddlers all about? Me, mine, I do. That's what it's all about. Autonomy. What's autonomy mean? Autonomous. Automatically me, mine. It's all about me. My autonomy. All about me. That's how you remember that one. And these children are explorers. They like to look and see and visit everything. I call them my dive bomb kids. They like to get on top of the couch. They like to jump off of this couch and jump on the other couch. And there's no room and they fall on their heads and they, bruise them. And there are certain things we need to let these kids do. What happens is mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, whoever will see a child trying to do something that they fear is too dangerous. Please don't do that. Be careful. And it puts that shame in them. Toddlers need to be kept safe, but they need to be allowed to explore the world. Remember, they don't know anything at birth. They're learning through all of this looking and playing. Now, preschooler talks about initiative, and these children now need to be able to do things for themselves. Parents, it's easier for the parent to put the shoes, the socks on, help them change their clothes, pick out their clothes, etc. Right? Well, by preschooler, which is ages 3 to 6, they should start to give the child that initiative to do things to be helpful. Okay, that's what is said about that. Now, these are Erickson things we're talking. Now, school age children. Now, school age children are ages 6 to 12. It's a long period of time. And school age children, they do some things really well, but they don't do everything really well. So their task is industry. And you're like, oh, what does industry mean? Well, think about a school age child's task. What do they do? It's their industry, it's their house, it's their building, it's what they've made, they do well. Their industry is what they do well. Now, the rest of the stuff, maybe they're good at spelling, good at math, but they can't kick a ball and they can't run. Well, the things they can't do well, they feel inferior about. But those things that they do good at, that's their industry. Makes them feel good, makes them feel really proud. Okay. Now, the other thing about school age children is they like to do things and finish the job. So, any task you give a child, a school age child to do, make sure that it's something that with a little bit of, trying, that they'll be able to get it done. Don't make it a task where they'll never succeed in anything that we'll do for these school age children. So again, it's like providing chores that are appropriate. They can get it done, get the cat things and, give them the cat food or bring your clothes to the dirty laundry or take your clean clothes into your room. Whatever it is, you give them something that they're able to. Now, school age children are now getting more pulled away. They're more in school. Now they're starting getting friends, right? Up to this point, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa are the one who's just told them exactly what to do and how to do it. Well, because they're away from the family so much, now they need to know their own limits, their own self-discipline, what I can do, what I can't do. And when they do things well, they want to get feeling good about it. So they get results from the effort. So school age children who make their bed in the morning and, put their clothes in the laundry, great job, good job, right? Those kids who don't, that's the one that maybe the parent has to, intervene some more. Now, adolescence. Erickson talks about adolescents are trying to figure out who they are, their identity. It means what I want to be when I grow up. It's also that sexuality. Do I like girls? Do I like boys? What do I like? That sort of things. What group do I hang with? The band group, the gym group, the drama group, the math club, the science club. Who am I? Identity. One of the big things about, adolescence, they're going from being a kid. At the end of adolescence, they're adults moving out of the house, going to college, getting married, and getting their own places. So they need to figure out their identities, and they need to figure out where they're going to go. And one of the problems with this age, it's the children can, depending on what happens, they can get depression because they don't like their body images. I mean, remember, these kids are pudgy, they're too fat, they're too skinny, too many freckles, too many curls, too much acne on their face, whatever. They are really concerned about identity. And a lot of times, they need to understand how to control their feelings because actually, you're going to see suicide in the adolescence. Now, parents need to be parents all the time, right? Now, they are not going to be able to really control completely their child, but they need to have the children respect what they want to do. They always say that parents and children, adolescents at this age, remember, they're just about to go out of the house. We need to tell them what our expectations were and are, and to help them so that they adjust into be responsible adults, okay? And also, whatever, they want to be when they grow up, have them the opportunities to experience that, whether taking them to places or career day or whatever has to happen. Now, Erickson's, we've talked about the infant wants to trust somebody coming. We talk about the toddlers, about being autonomous, those sort of things. And then we go into preschool, the initiative. And we go into school age, their industry, what they do well, right? Know that these children need to go through all of these feelings because it makes them maybe understand themselves, understand others, and it's going to help them grow up and be more well-rounded. Now, intellectual ability is Piaget. Now, Piaget talks about thinking. Now, remember, an infant's born has no clue what to do. They don't know how to eat. They don't know how to breathe, do they? We smack their butts and make them take a big scream at birth, right? So now that they're breathing. And then we put a breast in their mouth or a bottle in their mouth, and they have to learn how to suck, right? We're learning. This is cognition. So the next time the breast or the bottle's there, they'll know what to do. Now, sensorimotor. This is what children's play is all about. The sense, the touch, the feel. Is it hard, soft? Is it smooth? Is it coarse? Is it mushy, mashed potatoes, sand? Those things. And then oral, ori, in the mouth. Now, infants explore and children explore the world through their mouths. So everything goes in their mouth and they explore the world there. And then motor, moving things. Let me give you an example. So mommy takes a rattle and puts it next to the infant. And the infant reaches and by reflex grabs that rattle. Well, then all of a sudden they move their arm and the rattle makes a sound. And the infant goes, wow, I like that. Or it interests them. So they make some more sound of it. All right. Then all of a sudden it falls into their mouth and they start sucking on it. Like, oh, I like this too. So they've done the sensory motor, right? And this is how they build on little things. Because remember, they don't know anything. They've got to learn for it. And then Piaget goes on into thinking about, sensory motor is that beginning, learning. Pre-operational is taking broomsticks and then they're going to be airplanes and their arms out and all that being creative, right? Concrete again is that I know what I've seen it, touched it, done it before. So they know how to do it. whether it's they saw somebody get out of being in trouble and they use the same thing, or it's, that concrete, like, well, I know I did that right, so I'm going to be okay, because they've seen it, touched it, felt it before. Now, formal operation is your adolescence. Now, adolescents can figure out a story for anything to get what they want, right? So they didn't do well at an exam. And you say, well, you're not going to the movie this weekend with your friends. And that child says, well, if I make my bed, I get an A on the next test. And if I take the garbage out and I don't talk back, I think that through all of these things, formally thinking of what I can do to get mom to do what I want, they'll do it. School age don't do that yet. This is the adolescence. I think it's the hardest part of children growing up, because they get their own minds, they get their own way of thinking, and they're trying to manipulate your mind into it also. Now, Kohlberg. Kohlberg has 3 different stages. I don't go into the stages. What I want you to know about Kohlberg, it's right and wrong, and a consequence for either being right or wrong. Now, if you do something right, you're going to get praise. You do something wrong, it's going to be punishment. So it's reward and punishment also. Kohlberg. Now, parent teaching, I think this is something that we should do from the moment you see this child, and you're going to be teaching the child, teaching the parents how to do things in order for them to be better. I mean, you've got kids with just, a simple acute illness, and you've got children that are going to have chronic, that they're going to have to work with. So the one thing about teaching is always find out who is the person who's going to be taking care of that child as the adult, mom, dad, grandma, whoever, and making sure that they're involved with it. And then make sure that you get on their developmental level so that they understand what you're saying. I would always, as doing an assessment, I'd be listen to the lung sound. Say, I'm listening for this. If it looks like this is what it could be. Or I'm looking at their mucous membranes, or listening to a heart rate, and what do these things mean? And if you do that all the time, parents will start doing it, and actually they can be your ears and eyes. Now, as I said, nutrition. Now, some families don't believe breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks. It could be due to financials, or just it's just not the way that they ate. Remember, you don't put fuel in the tank, you're going to have no fuel in the brain, and cognitively you will be behind. You're not going to be as alert, your growth and development's going to be delayed, and your growth is going to be stunted. And we don't want any of these things. All the motor skills, all of those things will be delayed. So nutrition, very important. Now, one of the things about kids and nutrition is that there are certain things we should never recommend to do. A child who turns 1 year old can have whole milk instead of breast milk or formula. Now, why would we give whole milk and not a low fat or 2%? Well, they need it for the central nervous system, for their brain. So we will never, up to age 2, ever restrict fat or cholesterol. They need it. We also know that children who are sick, one of our major goals is, if they can't eat, how do we get them nutrition so that they still can have that for cognition and grow? Whether it's TPN, right? That total parental nutrition, or maybe we have to put a tube feeding in, right? To get them the nutrition they need, depending on what's going on with them medically. Nutrition's always the first thing we look at. Now, When you don't feed a kid, what's going to happen? Well, number one, the weight's not going to be there. Cognitively, they're not going to be there. And they're going to be restless, crying, and they're going to be, this child can't be happy. And of course, their weight's going to be very low. Now, when you overfeed a child, well, that's going to be the kid that born at 7 pounds is now 18 pounds at 6 months. So we know that kid's probably going to be spitting up, might have diarrhea also. And again, we're going to see that in the weight gain. It's one of the biggest things we can do is measure the height and weight every visit. Now, remember with certain diagnoses as we go along, remember high fat diets can cause abdominal distension. That means a lot of flatus. All right. It's a lot that the stomach doesn't empty, so you feel full. A lot of gas is made, abdominal distension happen. So we would decrease the fat, but we wouldn't give too much. Now, high carbohydrates, again, same thing, abdominal distension, flatus, but again, too many calories are going in. So there'd be ways that we can cut that down. Constipation, don't have enough fiber or that bulk, and we're having too much fat or protein. So children, what is this telling you? They need a real balanced diet, not too much fat, just enough fat, and of course, protein and carbs. As I said, whole milk at 1 year is what we recommend. So the first 6 months, they're going to have breast milk or iron fortified formula. At 6 months, we're going to introduce food one at a time, 4 to 7 days in between, and we're going to look for any sort of allergies. And it could be as simple as spit up, gas, diarrhea. It also could be a rash or to the point of anaphylaxis, right? Could be any of those things. When we get to 1 year old, they say they don't have to breastfeed anymore. They don't need any formula and they can have whole milk. It's all we can give them and it works for it. As I said, low fat should never be before 2 years old. So whole milk. They should be able to feed themselves by the end of the 2nd year. So almost at 3. Now, sometimes they'll have the spoon upside down. That's okay. They're just playing. As long as they can, into the mouth somehow. That's what we want. And you need to let the kid try. I mean, it's easy enough. We could feed the kid easy, right? But we need, again, to give that kid that independence. So, this parental anxiety. There's some, we only have this much time and they got to get to bed and they got to take their bath and I have to do this. And we can't do that with kids. We got to give them the time that they need. Toddlers love finger foods. It could be little pieces of fruit. It could be those little puff things. My kids were small. It was Cheerios. They didn't have puff things. And they just like to pick them up. And when they pick them up with their fingers, it's called a pincer grasp. So we have that reflex palmar grasp to start with. And then we have voluntary. And then it goes into trying to pick up one little thing at a time. But it starts out with a crude, like a smush in the hand. And then it goes to little pincers, grasp, getting it in. And they love to do it. They just one at a time, little by little, make sure that it's small enough that they're not going to choke on it. One of the things about finger foods is making sure that they get all the food groups, right? We need to make sure that they're getting the protein, the carbs, the fat, everything in those finger foods. One of the things with children is they tend to like sweets and chocolates. And this takes up space in their stomach where they should be eating more good food, right? They're saying protein, calcium, vitamin A, and ascorbic acid, vitamin C, tend to be a low intake. So as we're teaching our parents, making sure we tell them, we need to give them that protein, whether it's that meat, calcium, which could be just your milk, right? And then, of course, vegetables and fruits. There's ways of sneaking things in that the kids don't even know anymore. Now, adolescence, when you just start your adolescent at age 12. There's what we call this pre-adolescent growth spurt that happens. And they're growing 20 to 25% of their entire height in this 2 to 3 years time. So again, they're growing a lot. They need good nutrition. What happens to adolescents with food? Well, they think they're fat, right? So they don't eat well. And they're growing, they're getting taller, but they're not feeding the brain. So again, teaching nutritious foods, appetizing foods that they still can not gain weight with, but still feed the brain. Very, very important. Okay. We know that adolescents tend to push themselves, between after school activities, between school, trying to get the good grades to get to college, and of course, talking on the phone and the computer and playing games to all hours. Fatigue, being tired is a big thing. So obesity is a big thing in children today. And I really believe what it is that today you need two people working to contribute to a household to make ends meet. And this is, part of the fast food thing that's come in. Parents are working all day, going to school, come home, have to make dinner, and it's easier to go through a drive-through or get something that's easier to prepare, all these processed foods, etc. And because of that, we are seeing in the school age area a lot more of obesity, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. And remember, children who are obese in school age, that area, they have more chance of having diabetes as they get older and high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So BMI, that's how you look at it. They always give you a number for BMI. And we know, what else do school age kids love to do today? Unlike, let's say, 20 years ago. Well, they don't like to go outside and play anymore. They want to come home and get on their Switch or get on their PlayStation or get on a game, right? And they're sitting, they're not moving. So it's that immobility that also has them gaining weight. Any kid who's sick, as I said, not going to eat. Kids who are in a hospital, it's not their food. They look at it and go, no, it's not mom's. So again, they're going to have poor appetite. So again, trying to figure out what foods they will eat, placing them on the menu is what you need to do. Also, food could not just be the food that's not good. There could be something medically. Again, what do school age kids do at age 6? They start to lose their teeth, their baby teeth, right? So loose teeth, are they eating because they can't chew because the tooth hurts them? Or do they have a cavity? Or do they have any sores in their mouth? So again, they're not eating. Look at the total overall picture. Fevers, they're not going to eat, okay? Loose teeth, pain in the mouth, sores, they're not going to eat. So rule those things out to make sure that we can get them the nutrition they need. All they say is 1 tablespoon of food for each year of age is all they need per feeding. 1 tablespoon. So if they're 3 years old, 3 tablespoons of food is enough. I mean, I think toddlers are the most area of children where they don't eat. Because at infants, they're eating like crazy, aren't they? You can't get enough formula in them, baby food in them. They eat, 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 eat. And then all of a sudden, in toddlers, they're not eating. They don't want the food they like to eat, and they're eating this much. And, I know people who stay home with children get really nervous. I know my husband, we decided he was going to stay home and watch the child. And I'd come home from work and he would tell me, Christian only ate a piece of cheese and 3 grapes and half a hot dog. And I go, oh, that's really great. And he goes, no, he needs to eat more. They go into that physiologic anorexia in those toddlers. So again, making sure that that 1 tablespoon of food per year is all they need, so you don't have to get all anxious about it. And also, never give them anything before they eat. Drinks, snacks, it's going to ruin their appetite. Christian loves that big cup of apple juice. No, not until after you eat. Because if he drinks, he's not going to eat. And he's 7, okay? But he's this big. He's a tiny little thing. I think he still weighs 54 pounds at 7 years old. He's a peanut. But we don't give him the drinks or snacks before he eats. Now, the things that children do and they soothe themselves with is the pacifier. And I know it's gone back and forth. Are they good? Are they bad? Should we use them? What about the teeth, et cetera, et cetera? Well, how does a child self-soothe? Through their mouth. Whether a pacifier, finger, a toy, something, they self-soothe there. They explore the world in their mouths. And if a child cannot eat due to a procedure or due to a physical condition, give them a pacifier, the young ones, so they can soothe themselves and they'll be calmer because this is the way they keep themselves calm. Baby teeth should start coming in about 6 months. We know that the deciduous teeth, we know that those teeth can be coming in. I said that the falling out and getting your permanent teeth starts about age 6. And by age 12, all the baby teeth should be out and all your permanent teeth should be in there. We know that when we're looking at teeth, there's many things that can cause them not to come out or come out too early. So this is something that we'll be looking at also. So sticky foods, there used to be taffy, right? Baby Ruth, yeah. And it just sticks in your teeth. Make sure that, they get them brushed out. Teeth should be brushed as soon as they have, teeth in there. And it could be just a wet washcloth. Just get those teeth nice and clean before they lay down to go to bed. Because that sugar will rot their teeth. And if you look at that bottom right corner, that baby teeth, it can happen. Back when my son, now he's 40 now, but when he was 2 years old, they didn't have sippy cups. They didn't make them yet, believe it or not. So he would carry his bottle by the nipple and he'd bite it and have it in his mouth and just walk around with it. And his teeth did get like that. And all of a sudden they were like that. I'm like, oh my goodness, what have I done? And it literally is called a bottle mouth. It was the sugar from the juice or the milk that was there that caused it. We know snacks should be more like cheese and milk. Not till the older kids. Raw vegetables, whichever ones they do like. They should be brushing as much as you can. A minimum at bedtime before they go to bed should be done. Brush their teeth. So back to they should be also flossing. But children under age 6 or first grade down, they don't have that ambidextrous ability to get into those and to do that flossing. That's something that parents are going to have to do, okay? Toothbrush should be changed even for us as when we're getting sick. You get sick, you should throw the toothbrush out and get a new one, or unless you're going to really sanitize it and sterilize it again. They're saying you should not take it and rinse the bristles in hot water because they come loose and they'll get in the mouth and they'll get stuck in the throat. So don't do those things. And of course, no sharing toothbrushes. Now, the doctors will tell you there should not be fever associated with teething. All right. But, this is the one thing that I've always argued with because all my kids, when they were teething, had a little fever. And they're saying, yeah, but it has nothing to do with it. I'm like, okay, but every time they have a tooth, it always happens. But their pediatric association says no. Play. Love to play. That's children. They like to play as much as they possibly can. So we know that there's all sorts of playrooms. I mean, the hospital I work, there's a playroom upstairs. Kids can go. They have activities all the time. But if they have something that another kid can catch that's communicable, they can't have them in the playroom. So it's only kids, with medical problems. Sickle cell anemia. there's not any infection, they can go up to the playroom. And we know art, computer, all those things can help children, and it does distraction for being in a hospital. Remember, whenever you're going to play with a kid, make sure that it's appropriate, age appropriate, and it's not something that can harm them. As in an asthmatic child, you wouldn't want anything fluffy that fuzzes in the air and they can breathe in and can cause an asthma attack, right? And always appropriate to these kids. And we can figure it out. Is it crayons? Is it going to be giving them an iPad, or turning on the TV in a movie, or playing crayons, or an older kid playing cards with them? All of these things do help the time pass by. Health problems, there's all different sort of things that you might see. Asthma, hemophilia, seizures, bulimia. These can affect your teeth, all right? Asthma, the medicines you use. Hemophilia, the bleeding of the gums. Seizures, biting down on the teeth. And of course, bulimia is the vomiting and the acid that goes on the teeth. So we know sugar can absolutely cause the teeth to rot and break down. And we know bleeding, again, could loosen up the gums. And of course, it's that vomiting that also causes erosion of the teeth, like with bulimia. So infants, what are the norms? Well, children, infants, are going to cry and they're going to coo, right? And they're going to even get to the point where they're going to giggle a little bit. They're going to have that little smile, and they're going to have, when they're going to sleep, when they're waking up, once they're on that cycle, right? Something happens in about the 8-month-old child called a separation anxiety. This is when you have a child, let's say they have to go into a hospital and mom can't stay there. You're going to see the kid when mom and dad leaves, they're going to be crying like crazy. It's going to be one of your discussion questions. After a while, they realize mom and dad's not coming, then they sort of withdraw and they sort of regress. If they didn't suck their thumb, they might be sucking it again. And then in the end, mom and dad, if they've been gone long enough, they come into the room, they're going to ignore them. So there's 3 stages: separation anxiety. You're going to work on that with a discussion question. It is something that you'll see again and again. So milestones. If the kid is not progressing forward the way that they should, why do we look at milestones? Well, if you're seeing a kid who's crawling, who now doesn't stand up by a year old, we know that kid is slowed down. This is something that we should tell a healthcare professional, and they're going to start early intervention. Speech therapy for those kids who need speech, physical, occupational therapy. Children are great, they'll catch up quick. And of course, they're going to rule out any sort of medical reason why these kids have slowed down and are not where they should be. As I said, different sort of vital signs, knowing the differences, and I got that sheet for you. I told you, sucking, pacifiers, their comfort. Christian at 1 month old had to be circumcised, and they did it with a pacifier with sugar water on it. There is research that's done by Harvard neurophysiologists, I believe they were, and they found that there was no difference in pain control with a pacifier with sugar water on it and morphine. And Christian did get his circumcision with just a pacifier. And as soon as they let him move, because you have to strap him down on a board to do the circumcision, he stopped crying. So it does work. And again, afterwards, he had the pacifier to suck and to self-soothe himself. Any children who can't eat for any reason, please give them that pacifier. It does help them, and it helps them soothe themselves a lot. If we can, those children, as infants get older, they like their hands, they like to suck, they like to play, they like to look at them. So have them there for them. Grasp reflexes disappear about 3 months. That's, that reflex grasp, okay? And it starts into the pincer. Prehension is about 5 to 6 months, and parachute is about 7 to 9 months. Now, a child who falls is like a cat. They put their hands and their feet out. Seriously, they may not land on all fours. That's not what I'm saying, but they put their hands and their arms out. That's part of what that thing is. And as I said, pincer is when they're picking up those little Cheerios or those little pieces of food off the high chair. One of the things kids need is just consistency. They need schedules. They need to trust that if they cry, somebody's coming for them. And that's what Erickson says, trust versus mistrust. If they're crying, 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 and nobody's coming in, they are not going to be happy children. They're going to be more withdrawn. And a happy child is one that mom will go and pick them up when they need it. We know there's tummy time and sensory and stimulation is important. We know that if a kid is crying, there's no spoiling this kid at this age as an infant. Soothe them, go and pick them up, give them a pacifier, whatever they need. If they're hungry, feed them. One of the things is, well, it's only been 3 hours and I have to wait for another hour. If it happens once a day, it's okay. If they're hungry, soothe them, all right? And children do know when they're being taken care of and nurtured and hugged when they should be. As I said, no two infants are the same. They'll all be different in them, okay? Nurses' responsibility on promoting health in children. Now, a lot of new parents, they've read books, hopefully, or maybe they haven't, but it's giving that child a start, telling them not to leave them on top of tables. When they get to be like 5 months old, they're starting to roll by then. Not to leave them on a changing table alone or a bed alone. I can't tell you how many kids fell off beds onto cement floors, tiled floors, off of changing tables, tiled floor, couches, tiled floor, and they come in because they don't realize kids now by age 5 months are turning over and they'll roll right over onto the floor. Okay. That's one of the health promotion things. Children that are irritable, lethargic, they shut down, you need to treat them a little differently. They don't like big stimulations, okay? These are the ones that you're going to be quiet and soothing and not bright lights in the eye, and then just slowly rock them. No big excessive movement stimulation, and that child will respond to that. That's your irritable infant. So you sit quietly, you don't talk or sing, take the noise out, soft voice, swaddling them, making their hands and make them tight. That gives them comfort. And again, pacifier, doesn't that help? I think you're hearing that. Colic, probably one of the hardest things for parents to deal with. This is when the child is going to have absolutely gas and are crying all the time. It usually goes away by 3 or 4 months. If you can imagine, poor mother and father for first 3 to 4 months having a baby up all the time crying because of gas. And you've done everything. You've changed formula, you've rocked them, you've burped them, you're sitting up. It's just something they're just going to have to outgrow. It's really, really hard. As I said, lethargic child, I've already told you about that. Sleep, we know usually newborn sleep 4 hours. Sometimes they might be a little bit longer at nighttime, hopefully, right? It's that synchronizing them to the circadian rhythm. If you work night shift and now you want your baby on a day shift, it might be a little difficult. I know I did work night shift for one of my children, and there was a difference trying to change that child back to a day. They should be on their back to sleep. Firm mattress, no blankets, no pillows, nothing fluffy in that crib at all for them. And that's part of preventing SIDS death. Okay? Taking care of children, they need to go in for their normal appointments. They're there right after they're born at 2 weeks old, 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 1 year, 15 months. There's when all the vaccinations are going to be given. But make sure that they know that health checkups are very, very important and tell them why. Letting them know that diapers, they need to understand how many a day that they're getting, especially if it's a breastfed infant. Are they having 6 wet diapers a day? Probably having more than that, knowing a breastfed child. And again, remembering to change diapers because you don't want a child that has a diaper rash, because that child's going to keep you awake at night when they stool at night or urinate at night. Again, making sure proper fluid and nutrition is by monitoring them, their height and weight, monitoring wet diapers. In the first year, we know that we're looking at hearing. That's done before they come home now from the hospital, and vision. Those growth grids are every visit we go to the doctor. Immunizations. If they're not gaining weight or too much weight, they're going to have nutritional counseling. Again, any education for these parents, we're going to give it to them they need. Early intervention, you've heard me say this a couple times. This is when a child is not where they should be on the growth and development chart. They're way behind. They're lagging behind. Early intervention means giving them something to help them catch up by growth. If the kid is not talking by 15 months, only one word, we know that they're going to need speech therapy, and that's going to help them learn, right? Also, cognitive development, how to think. This is physical and occupational therapy. And I'm saying these children do catch up really, really quick. That's what I love about working with peds. So immunizations, we know there's a whole big schedule of them. We know delays are usually because they're sick, but hopefully we don't get them too far delayed, and keeping a good, accurate record of those immunizations because you're going to need it moving forward. As I said, 6 months is when we start food. Again, that excrusion reflex. What is a tongue excrusion reflex? Well, infants are used to a nipple going in their mouth, whether a breast or a nipple, and they suck on it and they eat, right? Well, now you're putting a spoon in that mouth. They stick their tongue out. That's a tongue excrusion until they learn there's food there, and then they stop putting their tongue out. So that's part of why infants at first, it's not that they don't like the food, they don't know what to do with the food, okay? Somewhere between 4 to 6 months, they do start that up and down munching, but again, it needs time for that tongue excrusion to go away. Teaching parents about nutrition is important. It's also about figuring out, are there anything in their culture or their ethnic practices that you need to be considered? Now, we do have some cultures that are vegetarian. Now, how could that affect negatively or positively that infant? These are things we need to work with that parent for. If they're vegetarian, we need to worry about iron, right? So we don't have any iron deficiency anemia. We know that the first 6 months they gain 4 to 7 ounces per week. As I said, at least 6 wet diapers should be there, and they should sleep comfortably, which means they're getting the nutrition they need. As I said, human milk or iron fortified formula is the first 6 months. After that, they can start the solid foods, and then at 1 year, it's whole milk, cow's milk. Prebiotics and probiotics, we use these for the probiotics for diarrhea. And if it gets diarrhea, we'll make sure they're getting plenty of fluid, but we'll give them the probiotics, and that will stop up the diarrhea. In fact, that's the absolute treatment for diarrhea. Bottle feeding, remember, if you're giving anything, a can, a bottle, whatever, Make sure that you do check the expiration dates. Make sure you store it, that it's not sitting out, and that you use clean things for that also. You don't heat anything in a microwave because that microwave could heat it too much and they could burn the baby's mouth. Thus, say never save your formula from one feed to the next either. And yes, I know that gets expensive, but you don't want any bacteria getting into the milk, given to your child, get your baby sick.
I have a question about culture.
Sure.
How does culture? So you were talking about how culture influenced the baby's feeding habits. How does that? Because I'm from
Well,
West Africa.
what about the types of food you eat?
Okay.
You get, like, for instance, like I said, there are some with they're vegetarian, or you don't eat cow, you don't eat pig, you don't eat whatever. Is there need for a supplement for something else? Now, if it's just taking one protein out, that's not a problem. There's other. But if it's vegetarian, now we need to say, where else can we get a good protein for that child so that they have that for their good bones and the good growth. Okay.
So a parents can decide a child can be vegetarian, doesn't matter what age, but as long as they give
They
them the
do.
right nutrients.
Yeah, they
Okay.
do. Yes. And that's another reason why we do. We want them to have a well-rounded diet. We know in the first year, it's not really vegetarian is easy in the first year. It's after that where it gets a little bit more difficult. Because usually it's vegetables and fruits and a different sort of milk and cereals, and they're getting what they need. It's after a year, then we'd say, all right, if we don't give enough iron to this child, it might end up with iron deficient anemia, right? Another thing is, what if some of the culture believes in foods give them health, and it's something that could be allergic? I mean, I don't know all cultures, I don't know all religions, but these are things that need to be explained to the parent. You can't do certain things. For instance, what are those things that cause allergic responses? Christian is allergic to tree nuts. First time he had it, his face blew up and he started, with the throat going. And he knows now, whenever he's given food, does it have nuts? Because he doesn't like that feeling that goes on in his throat. But orange juice, fish, nuts, strawberries, chocolate, and egg whites are something that we need to give later. It's not one of the first foods that we're going to do. Another thing that we should never do is mix like the cereal and the bottle. They need to use the spoon in it, okay? And they say the first food that we give an infant is rice cereal. Why do you think it's rice cereal? Well, it's less allergenic. It's the least allergenic food out there. So rice cereal is what we start with. 4 to 7 days later, we'll give a fruit, vegetable, whatever the doctor says or whatever the parent gives them. And then slowly, one by one, we'll add them on. And we're not going to give those other things till later on because of those chances for anaphylaxis. So when we are starting food, we need to give the food first and then give the milk second, because we want them to get the food in there to decrease the amount of milk that they're eating, whether it's breast or with formula. It's starting to, pull them over from all milk now into putting more food in there. Infants need a lot of food. As I said, they're growing really, really quick, right? So again, they need their fats. They need well balanced, the proteins and the carbohydrates and fruits and vegetables in there. Again, don't hold fat off on a child, even if they're pudgier kids. They need it for their brains and for development. Breastfeeding is the number one thing that we do think is best for the child. Um, it does decrease the amount of SIDS deaths in infants. It also gives mommy's immune system to the infant. If the mommy gets a little sick, and of course the infant's right around mommy's producing these antigens and now is giving it to the infant, which will help that child also from being sick, okay? Weaning, we know when a kid is ready, they're done, or they'll start eating less and they'll start eating for more regular food. We know that the one thing that happens in breastfeeding is now the baby gets teeth and starts biting. And we know that's usually about the end of breastfeeding on the child. And remember, you can't just take them off. It slowly has to be weaned off. When we're looking at foods, the most natural are absolutely the best. So, down here in South Florida, Chrome Avenue is the big vegetable stand of the world. I mean, getting them and washing that is the most, best food there is, but not everybody has that ability. And we know the less additives are more expensive, but it is the best thing for our child. So again, to read labels on these foods, making sure that they're not getting any hormones, animals, drugs, or anything in their food. Again, food before milk. 4 to 6 months, their sucking is better. They're munching up and down. Again, starting with the foods. Again, this is the delay. Rice cereal is first because it's less allergenic. And remember, 1 tablespoon per year of life is all they need. They don't need much. Put it in the back of the tongue. Do the solid foods first, then give them their milk. And again, offer food 1 at a time every 4 to 7 days, and they usually will do well. Now, car seat safety, big questions that you see on your exams. We know that infants up to age 2 should be rear facing, up to 30 pounds. If they reach that 30 pounds in heights sooner, that would be a child that you would turn around first into a new car seat. But in any exam, you're going to have them rear facing up to the age of 2. Then they can be turned around, again, still in the back seat of the car. And they say, put them in the middle. We always put them on the passenger side. So as a driver, we can see them, right? They're telling you in the middle. So if the car's hit, they're not hit either way, right? Fall prevention. I talked about them rolling around. Remember, always have a hand on them or strap them in with the buckles. Crib rails should be up and locked. And if you have stairwells, things, always put up gates, etc. Especially pools, making sure that the doors are locked, that there's fences, etc., etc. Toy safety is a big thing. No small parts for kids under age 3. They put it in the mouth, they're going to swallow it, they can choke, and that can create a problem. And everything's explored in these children's mouths. So here, major developmental changes. Weight doubles by 6 months, triples by 1 year. Now, a baby is born with big heads and a small chest. By 1.5, they should be equal or the chest should be bigger. So if it's not, why is the head still big and the chest isn't? Is there water going on the brain with hydrocephalus? So that's why we know these things. Mommy gives a lot of iron to that baby at birth. At 6 months, it's gone. So the baby has to replace it themselves, okay? Infants are born and they're used each eye separately at first. And then there's no depth perception. Well, then these eyes now start to work together. And now when they reach for things, they can reach. That depth perception starts. That's why that means there. Infants older than 4 months should be able to roll from their abdomen to their belly, like I've already told you. And by 1 year, they can either walk or take some independent steps, okay? We know reflex things become voluntary, grasp, etc., and teeth come in by 6 months. So, toddlers. Toddlers are your kids ages 1 to 3, my dive bomb kids. These are these kids that are me, mine, temper tantrums. These don't share. These children are all about me, autonomous, all about me, automatically me, mine. And then it's versus that shame and doubt. Well, Erickson understands that child is going to be out searching and experimenting and looking and want to do everything. That shame and doubt is when other people try to stop them from doing things, whether it is don't let them, jump from a couch to a chair because they're afraid, or if they're outside, say, careful, don't go there, don't touch that, be this, did it. They're like, they don't know what to do. They saw it, they wanted to touch it, they wanted to play with it, and nobody's letting me do it. That's the shame and the doubt. Again, safety is what we're looking at. And again, I've told you, negativism. No, me, mine. That is absolutely a toddler's favorite word. No. They are children who are very verbal. They are stubborn. They want to do what they want to do. So it's, having parents working with developing them they can go out into the public and be around other children, but that's normal with toddlers. One of the biggest things that can help a toddler feel less stressed and more comfortable is what we call ritualism. You have a child ages 1 to 3 go in the hospital. You have put them off their routines completely. So the big thing is to try to bath time the same time, dinner time same time, foods, if at all possible, the same foods, okay? And this is going to help them feel a lot more comfortable. Birth weight quadruples by 2.5 years old. So it triples by 1. And then it takes another 1.5 years before it quadruples. So you see how it slows down. So you see why the toddlers don't eat that much, right? We know everything starts to change. We know that their abdomen is big and pudgy, starts to flatten. We know that they're becoming more agile, working well. And we know this is the time where their bladder, they can hold their urine, or if they hold it for 2 hours, we know that they're getting ready for potty training. And we know bowel and bladder is somewhere between 2.5 to 3 years old. And that doesn't mean all kids are done by 3. Some kids are longer, and that's normal. We know respirations are still abdominal because of that big abdomen that's there. They can take care of their own temperature control. Infants need extra clothes or blankets. We know that all their teeth should be in, the baby teeth, by 2.5 years. We know that their immune system is getting better. Their digestive process and their eating is getting better. Instead of feeding them every 3 to 4 hours a bottle, they can have 3 meals a day with snacks in between, which is different. They are, they can think, they can do things. But again, this is trial and error. This is where they try to do things and do it over and over again. Again, that's part of their exploration there. This is a time in the toddlers where mommy can drop off the kid at daycare and they can go a little bit longer. They are starting to look at other people and copying what they're doing, what words that they're hearing, some words we don't want them to hear, but they're starting to understand. When they are in the bathroom and they're potty training, one of the things that can happen is they don't understand the whole concept of urine and feces, stool. They think that it's part of their body, and when they flush it, they're flushing their whole body down there. And this is a normal way that them think. Now, sometimes we have to correct children because they've done things wrong. There's a way to do it without a child feeling like they're bad, like they've done bad things. And again, this is teaching a parent how to have this child still feel loved, even though they've done something that's not nice. Speech development. By the end of 1 year, they should have a 2-syllable words, mama, dada, nana, pop, pop, whatever. They should be able to do that. As they get older, they're starting to learn more words. They're starting to be able to verbalize and tell you things. And we know that if they're trying to talk, it's really sometimes hard and difficult to understand what they're trying to tell you. Again, it's taking time with them and say, okay, explain that something different, or here, show me what you're talking about. So autism is something that we don't screen till about 2 years old. We won't put a diagnosis before that. But what do we see if we think a child is autistic? We're going to see some things before that, but the label, the diagnosis, they don't put it there till about 2 years old. They are not pointing, gesturing, bye-bye type things by 12 months. They're not speaking, no words at all. And they tend to sit alone by themselves and play, and they don't hear themselves being called for. They're in their own little world with repetitive type of behaviors. And these are things that would draw us attention. They could be autistic. But remember, it may be another reason why they're acting that way. Could be lead poisoning, hearing problems, neurological problems, etc. So these are things that must be ruled out in order to give that diagnosis. So as a toddler, these kids go through temper tantrums. They're autonomous, me, mine. They're exploring everything. The goal is to teach them what they did wrong, not to punish them. And timeouts, 1 minute per year of age, is why are they on timeout? And then have them sit there and get quiet, and then the clock starts. And they're been told why they're on timeout, okay? I mean, limit setting is you can't go over here, don't do this, etc. I mean, again, putting it in terms that a kid understands. Children love when mommy, daddy, whoever's good job, and smiles and claps and laughs with them. So understanding this is something that we should encourage parents to do. So sometimes things happen and they've gotten afraid. It could be they went to the hospital and they had to do an x-ray, and the machine scared them. Again, once they know that fear, it's going to be hard for that child to go back to an x-ray room because they already had that fear. So again, sitting with the kid, maybe saying that stay with them, whatever you have to do, or the parent has to do in order to help them. So every day, these little toddlers, these kids, they're little tiny little kids. As we're trying to talk and communicate and teach, again, never go over a kid, sit below them. I know if they were in a bed or on a stretcher, I'd sit on a chair next to them, and then you could talk to them, right? And you're not overpowering them. And then teaching them what you want. And that actually helps a kid understand. The thing about toddlers, you can't be on be on a schedule as much as possible, but remember, schedules are meant to be broken, especially with toddlers with what's going on. Clothes should be easy, on and off type things. And always remember, I'm in South Florida, sunburn protection. Shoes should be a little bit bigger than their foot, right? Because remember, they're walking now, And also posture. Children, if they're bent over, again, let's look at the family. What does the family look like too? Potty training usually starts about 18 to 24 months. As I said, usually when you can hold your urine for 2 hours is when we know they're ready for urine training. Rectal or potty training for their bowels is always first. Then it's the urine. It's one thing that you need to remember. It's always the bowels first, and then it's the urine, okay? They can control the bowels easier than they can the urine. Using the potty chair is great. Again, as I said, bowel training is first. Don't leave them alone in the bathroom, a long time, because it might seem like a punishment to them. So again, when they're in there, only a couple minutes, and then take them out, and again, they're dry for 2 hours, they're going to probably do that urine. Now, nutrition, as again, they're still growing, they're not eating that much. So we've got to be careful. They need about 100 calories per kilogram per day. I mean, what's the normal weight for a toddler? Oh, 12, 15 kilograms. So what do they need? About 1,200, 1,500 calories a day. And making sure that they're going to get enough. Milk intake should be no more than 24 ounces because they need to eat food, not just milk. Again, 1 tablespoon of solid food per year of age, food in small pieces, and they live to finger thick. Some kids don't like hard things. Some kids don't like soft things. Some kids don't like a certain color. Again, feeding them what you can. It's just normal that kids do those sort of things. And kids do have feeding disorders, believe it or not. And it's something that has to be worked with. And we will see, because of no nutrition, it'll be visible to the healthcare provider. The weight's not going to be what it should be, and cognitively, not where it should be, and developmental delays. Daycares, this is something that can be difficult for children, but it can be great. It is, a preference. Is it close to home? Is it accredited? Is it a certain one that your kids went to, that I went to, whatever? Again, cultural, financial, all of those things make a difference. And the one thing we should recommend it that should be state approved for sure. Toddlers don't have a really big attention span. They're very short in that attention span. And one of the things they do is play. Now, there are different sort of play. Toddlers do parallel play. And what does that mean? Well, think about a parallel line next to each other. They're next to each other, they don't touch. You have a kid playing here and a kid playing on the other line. They're both playing with toys, but they're not sharing. They're not playing together. They're next to each other. This is toddlers. This is parallel play. Again, it's hard for parents to let go and let them go to daycare, but all those influences make a child more well-rounded, learning other kids and other way that children do things, right? You'll watch other kids and you learn. They're curious. So children at this age, we know that they're very curious. They're mobile, keeping, things locked up in cabinets that don't need to be touched, that are dangerous, and, caustic chemicals, etc. Very important at this age. Non-flammable sleepwear. I mean, most of it comes like that today. If you ever look at the labels, they say it. Again, childproof caps, and I would always have them locked up somewhere. Being careful with the warmer, the water heater. Believe it or not, children have been burned because the water heater in the house was too hot. So it just gets turned down. It's something we don't think about. Also, smoke carbon dioxide detectors in case there's any fires. And, old cribs have bigger slots in between the placement. Newer ones are closer together. Kids' heads used to get out of those slots, and they used to get their bodies out, and they would hang themselves on the cribs. That's why they're now very close together. You can't put a head out there. And of course, car seats. I've just mentioned that. Play is what? What does play do? Well, it makes them understand, it makes them move, it makes them, their muscles get better, they socialize with other kids, and you're exploring all these different things through play, through toys. So we know in play, being with kids at social development, knowing that there's another kid there. Again, they're all about me, egocentric. Me, mine, mine. They're not going to share, but it's something that will be worked on. And we know parallel play, not playing with each other, next to each other, not sharing toys, will end up with the play that's the most evolved, which is two or more children playing together with the same things when there's a goal. Could be a board game, could be they're building a railroad track, could be they're building a house of blocks, castle and sand. There is a goal. Cooperative play, there's a goal. And again, as I mentioned, protection, sunburn, mosquitoes, and whatever, and childproofing. You wouldn't leave things out a kid could get into. And that was all of today. A lot of information. I went over, didn't get to the cahoots, but I am going to send that to you because we had no break. It is that time of that night. Any questions by anybody?
Yes, Professor, I
sure.
have a question. Because I was late, so I think I missed this. What you said. Where can I find a quiz review for this week? I mean, the quiz for next week.
It's on the announcements, and it's the one that's B. Week
Okay.
1, study guide B. That's your one you do. I'm also going to post it, Elena. I post everything as soon as the recording comes up. I'll put it on the announcements. I'll repost the PowerPoint. I'll repost the study guide for you, and I'll repost any other information that you need there. I'm going to actually post you some dosage calculation stuff there also. So
Yes,
that'll
thank you,
be on
Professor.
announcement, which will probably be up about 9 o'clock. Any other questions?
You say it's the one that say B as in boy or D as in David?
B as in boy.
B as
There's
in
one
boy.
that says nothing and one that says B as in boy. Thank you, guys. Any questions, anything, please do not hesitate to contact me. Remember, I need to know accommodations, any re-entries, anybody who wants weekly tutoring, let me know. I'm here to help you, and I want you to succeed, okay? Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.